Hello, my name is Jessica, and I'm a licensed psychotherapist who also struggles with being a human. Today, I want to talk some more about our morning routine and some hacks that have worked for me as a neurodivergent therapist who, at 35, is just discovering exactly what works for me. I always thought that there was something wrong with me for being a clinician who could understand how to help others and consistently helped others on a daily basis, but was unable to, at the end of the day, really truly help myself. And so after a complete and total run-in with burnout at 25 years old, I was really forced to look at the ways in which I was really doing myself a disservice as a human who was struggling with undiagnosed neurodivergence. So if you're not familiar with neurodiversity or neurodivergence, it's the idea that some people's brains do not function in a neurotypical way. You might hear the term neurotypical used when talking about somebody who is discussing the autism spectrum, but neurodivergence encapsulates more than just autism. Neurodivergence encapsulates people who struggle with ADHD, who struggle with undiagnosed learning disorders in general, people who struggle with complex trauma or trauma. Really, it's anyone whose brain does not operate the way the typical brain functions. And a lot of us assume that we have a typical brain and that anything wrong with us is a flaw with us morally, and that somehow we are bad or we are broken because we're not able to do certain things that our brain and body were designed to do. Some of our brains and bodies were designed to operate at a capacity that is not actually sustainable. And so for the first 25 years of my life, on the outside, I appeared to be the overachiever, the perfectionist, the person who had it all figured out. And I got the great grades in school. I did all the extracurricular activities. I went to college. I had friends. I was popular. But I was also struggling, deeply, deeply struggling. And while there were clues of that, and at the end of the day, all people really cared about was seeing me smile and succeed. And by 25, the constant smiling and succeeding wore thin and wore me thin. So at 25, I had a couple of choices. It was deconstruct all the ways I was toxifying my life and all the ways I wasn't taking care of myself, or I could choose a path where others told me I had to be highly, highly medicated and I had to be under a strict regimen of how I could function. I was basically told to expect my life to change forever and that I could never function the way I wanted to, work the way I wanted to, or be what I wanted to be, and that working to accept that would really help my trajectory. Those were direct words from providers and people who were responsible for my well-being at that time. And now I am on no medications, which medications are amazing and perfect, and they saved my life for a lot of years. But I'm in a place now, after 15 years of fighting this battle, where I can show up for myself and do things in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening that make it so that my days go a bit smoother, so that my brain slows down a little bit, so that I can slow down a little bit, and so that every day gets a little bit easier in terms of how I'm showing up for myself, even on the hard days, even on the hardest days. I can now show up for myself so much better than I could have ever predicted in the past. So, in terms of our morning routine, I'm going to say things that you have already heard. I am going to say things that people have told you that you might feel are redundant, but I want you to try your best to come at these talks about a morning routine as coming from someone who has been where you are, who has rolled their eyes and said, I've done this, I've tried this, this hasn't worked for me. Has it not worked for you? Or do you not believe that you are capable of or worthy of showing up for yourself in these ways? And so really unpacking our level of worth is going to be a huge boost in getting ourselves even to step one of having a morning routine that actually jumpstarts our day rather than immediately depletes us. So if we can just start with looking at how am I showing up for myself every day? How am I showing up for myself every day? So if you're waking up in the morning and the first thing that you're doing is checking your phone, what are you checking your phone for? Is it to watch a video like this with someone who's going to encourage you about your day and try to help you fulfill the parts of you that need fulfilling? Or are you going to doom scroll? Or are you going to check and compare with the person who woke up this morning and is already up and started their day? So looking at what is the very first thing you do when you open your eyes. And I want you to look at the answer to that question without shame. No shame. If the first thing you do every single morning when you wake up is check your phone and doom scroll, there is no shame. That is not good nor bad. It just is. It is what it is. And if we can just accept it and notice it. But is there something about that checking your phone and doom scrolling that doesn't sit well with you? Is there a reason why you don't want to be doing that? And if you can, again, that answer, whatever the answer is, if we can say it without shame. I don't want to be doom scrolling because I end up doing it all morning and it takes away from other things I want to do. It's so much easier to swallow than because I'm lazy and I don't have anything better to do with my life and I'd rather doom scroll than deal with the reality of my world. It might take a while to go from the shame to the no shame version, but when we can get to the taking the shame out of our morning routine or our lack of morning routine, and then we can say, what is it that I do when I first wake up in the morning that most sets me off track? So maybe you say, when I first wake up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, I brush my teeth, I do my skincare routine, I avoid my phone, I journal. I have a great morning routine until a certain point. So start there then. Start at the moment that that morning routine is diverted or doesn't happen and look at it without shame. Why are we waking up in the morning and unable to do what we need to do? Why do we always have to hit snooze on our alarm? Why do we sleep in every morning and end up rushing around? Can we ask those questions without berating ourselves? Can we ask those questions without punishing ourselves? Because if you think about it, if we take that voice in our head that says, I have to get up tomorrow morning earlier so I don't rush out the door. If we take that voice and we put it in the voice of our most annoying boss or mentor or parent or the person that when they tell us to do something, it's the last thing we ever want to do. That is the tone often of the voice that's saying, I should do this. It is coming from a place that says, you're not worthy, you're not good enough, and you not doing it is bad. And science has shown over and over that when we provide negative reinforcement, it does not lead to lasting change that leads to positive mental health. So we might get militant children through negative reinforcement. We might get kids that follow all the rules, but we might get kids who end up perfectionists and burning themselves out and or having poor physical, emotional, or mental health at the expense of doing it all right. So if we can take the militant part of our brain that says we must have a morning routine that looks like this and our morning routine doesn't, so we are bad. And we take that and we and we morph it into, we are a normal human operating under really wild conditions in 2024, and that what we do in the morning is likely a coping mechanism to keep our brains and bodies feeling like we are in some semblance of control. And it is okay if you wake up in the morning and you scroll. It's okay if you wake up in the morning and you sleep in. It's okay if you wake up in the morning and you're anxious and you're nervous and you're worried and you don't want to get out of bed. That is so normal. It is not even funny. But the world, society doesn't want you to think that. They want you to see commercials that show people on antidepressants that are skipping through fields, or people that are on commercials that are on end-of-life medications that are skipping through fields, when in reality, so many of us are struggling just to get out of bed. So if you've watched this, if you have gotten through this whole video, first of all, I am so proud of you. Give yourself a little bit of a reward right now by hearting or liking this video, because that will make me happy and that will give me more of a reason to make more videos like this. And just remember that you're worth showing up for. That if we can get rid of that shame in the morning, if we can and it's slow, it's a slow process. And if we can just reevaluate, just start there. So if you watched my previous video about hydrating, just hydrating in the morning is the first step. Just waking up every single morning. Where's my water? Every single morning and having water next to your bed or having water readily available. If we start there, just there, drink water. So if you wake up anxious, drink water. If you wake up depressed, drink water. If you wake up full of shame and dread, just drink water. Okay? And then evaluate what you do in the morning that you don't want to be doing because you'd rather be doing something else, and see if it's a shame story fueling it. See if it's that militant person that you don't want to listen to that's fueling it. And know that this is going to take, if you, for as many years as you are alive, it's going to take time, because we've spent our whole life learning to function the way we're functioning. And for whatever reason, we're here. And now we have to take step by step. It's not going to be an overnight fix. It's not going to be the drop of a hat. There's no miracle fix all to making ourselves function at the optimal level. But if we can just accept where we are right now, accept where it is, where we are right now without shame, drink water while doing it, nurture ourselves, fuel ourselves, that's all the morning hack you need. Start your morning without shame. And if that shame is showing up, work on figuring out a way to transmute it. And maybe that's with the help of a therapist. Maybe that's watching more content like this. Maybe it's reading more self-help books. I mean, whatever it is that you have access to learn more about where you learned to shame yourself in the morning, where you learned to be afraid of getting up, where you learned all of this, because you are not bad. You are not bad for not knowing what to do in the morning. You are not bad for not knowing to drink water. I don't care if you're 50 or 60 or 80 or 90 or 100 years old. If you're here today and you're ready to just start showing up for yourself first thing in the morning so that the rest of your day can be a little bit better, I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. Please, if you like this content, subscribe. I am doing this the non-traditional way. I have my forward-facing camera on cinematic mode because it sticks to the iPad that's behind it, because I don't feel like getting my tripod. I'd rather sit here and just have an honest conversation with you all about what has worked for me. Okay, bye.